All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ideal Me. I am Lamar Whitby, and today our guest is Miss Kristen Russell. Kristen is currently a clinical mental health counseling student at where? NC State,
Yes.
North Carolina State University. Um, yes, tough that she went to Bama, but we're not going to discuss that. Um, Yeah, so Kristen, welcome. Thank you for being a part of our show.
Thanks for having me, Omar.
Cool, cool, cool. So you are a counseling student. Why do you want to talk to people about their problems?
Um, I think one of the main things that got me into it is I was having indecision about a lot of things in my life, and I decided to go to counseling. And I just realized how beneficial it was in so many ways. I did major in psychology in college and undergrad, so I already had an interest in psychology and mental health and how it affects things you do. And so I think getting into a career I didn't like, realizing why I didn't like it, and then seeing such a need for mental health, and especially within like the Black community, was just something I really wanted to help people with and focus on.
Cool, cool, cool. So you talking about helping people within the Black community, you have not that a lot of people don't face this because I think it's like 50% of families or marriages end in divorce, but your family dynamic, I guess it's pretty unique. You have your biological parents are divorced,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
So your stepmom is a white lady.
Yeah.
There's one thing to face divorce, right, as a child. Uh, but how did that affect you, the divorce, and then um having a parent that didn't look like you?
I think I was 8 when my parents divorced, so I don't think when I was that young I really had much of an awareness of it or why it was felt weird. But
Okay.
getting older, like once I got probably to like middle school, like 13 and things like that, is when I was like, this is kind of off, this is kind of confusing. And I recognized that I had to explain a lot more things about myself that I was not used to, and had to, I don't know if justify is the right word, but you're just always explaining yourself, or like explaining why you need certain hair products, why you need to go to certain stores, or like even times now I have to explain why I'm uncomfortable in certain settings because it's not an understood thing. Whereas when you're with someone who is like you don't, it's like unspoken. You can just look at them and be like, this is not where I need to be, or I'm uncomfortable. And you don't have to always explain everything you're experiencing and everything you're going through. And then I think there's also just so much, um, there's so many assumptions about a Black man with a white woman that I had to kind of adjust my own thoughts around it. And I still struggle with that sometimes, of like what that means and what's it mean for someone, a Black man who was with a Black woman and then remarries a white woman, and a white woman in Mississippi. With all that being said, so it was a very small bubble, and you had to kind of expand someone's bubble, that you didn't realize how maybe naive people are, especially grown adults. So there's a lot of layers to it, and a lot of layers that still trying to get through. Like when they first got married and they had to pick out like hair products, they didn't know there was a Black hair care section in like a Walmart. So it's like starting from a point of really little to no knowledge, like no family friends that were Black. Like it wasn't what they were used to. And my dad's also very light skinned. He's white passing. So that's a whole nother layer to it too, because you have someone who's white passing, but very clearly Black kids. So what does that mean to incorporate that into the family? And so yeah, it was very interesting, and still trying to understand where I fit in and how their race and my race, where we might diverge, how we might be similar, and how much progress can be made, and how much is just kind of like, we're just going to have to work with what we got.
That's a complex situation.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, and it's interesting to try and work through because I feel like there's always something more. There's always another layer you like peel back. Like even though there's been a lot of progress made with our relationship and how we discuss race, there's still so much they don't know. Because my stepsister is also white and she's my age. I'm 24. So she's only 2 months older than me.
Okay.
Um, so it's like dealing with an adult, but then also someone your age who you would kind of hope maybe knows a lot more and then doesn't necessarily just because of the way they grew up. So um, yeah, really complex, still always trying to work through those things and work through even the feeling of having a dad who's white passing and I am in no way white passing. So um, it's, yeah, very interesting dynamics that still trying to get a grasp for.
So I know we said it was complex and confusing and that sort of thing, but where does that, as an adult who's going into um, a field where people like bring their baggage, right? They have issues and they bring their stuff from home. How do you face that? Like how do you face those clients who, not to put you on the spot, but how do you face those clients in situations when that's a dilemma for yourself?
Um, I mean, I think it's just about being honest. I think a lot of times in counseling programs, or you think of counselors and therapists as people who are completely impartial to things and like aren't phased, but that's just not reality. That's not life. So I think being honest about things that might be off-putting to me or things I don't understand or um, things that might upset me. I think it's important to be honest about that. And also therapy isn't just about listening to people all the time. It's also about giving feedback and educating people. Um, I mean, there have been times when I haven't seen too many clients yet, but a few clients where I have brought in things like, hey, did you know like this is a fact about Black people, or like this is something that could be useful for you and us to talk about. Like, did you know this was happening? And I think just coming from that lens of like education and also education for myself, I don't know everything. And then just being honest is the best way to encourage conversations. I had a white client who did have issues with um, race and identity and kind of maybe feeling like he couldn't say things he wanted to be able to say and maybe felt like really guarded because he felt like anything could be taken the wrong way. And that was an interesting topic for me because coming as a Black woman, someone who's marginalized, I'm like, like, if someone had just brought that up to me, be like, well, that's not really an issue. You shouldn't even think about that. Like, that doesn't really matter. But in the context, you kind of take yourself out and be like, I can understand how that would be difficult. And I could see that. And like,
Right.
this is my perspective on it. Like, this is kind of, as a Black woman, this is my immediate reaction to what you just said. Like, let's further delve into that. So I think those are the best ways. And honestly, I think having a family like that has given me a lot of patience. I think
Yeah.
I've had to develop a ton of patience in talking to people about difficult topics that I don't necessarily want to talk about and where we have disagreed on a lot of things, and just trying to be able to balance that without forcing my opinions on someone or them forcing them on me. So I think that's kind of a long-winded answer to that question, but I think that's kind of how I approach that with clients.
Okay. Okay. It wasn't I wouldn't say it was long-winded. It was honest and necessary. What do you bring to the field of counseling?
Um, um, I mean, I think to be a counselor, so many things you kind of have to bring. Like I said, you have to have patience. You have to be open-minded. Just general kindness and empathy for others.
Right.
And I think as a Black woman, I think there's just needs to be more diversity in counseling. Most people are white women, so just having a Black woman there is huge. Anyone who is different than a cisgender straight white woman is already making such a huge impact in counseling. So I think that can't be like overstated as well, because a lot of people don't seek out counseling because they want someone who looks like them, and there's not that many options. So I think that that is huge. And I know for me, I have an interest in like sports counseling and athletics. So I would love to work with like athletes on like mental health and mental readiness for events and competition and things like that, which I think is becoming bigger and bigger recently, especially with like the Olympics lately, and like Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka talking about their mental health.
Right.
And I think people have always downplayed how much mental health matters when you're in athletic settings. So hopefully going into a field that will probably continue to grow and develop, and more people are going to recognize the importance of it. And like, it's good to have a Black person and a Black woman in that too, because both of those women were Black women. So just having that as well is just huge, and I think will be a really big contribution. I hope it keeps getting bigger and more diversity it's into the counseling field in general.
Okay. Okay. Why is why is mental health important for because you talked about sports therapy. Why is that important for the success of athletes?
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, mental health is important for every single aspect of your life. You can't really perform to the best of your ability if you're not mentally ready or mentally there. And I mean, especially with athletics and events where you could potentially get hurt or, face an injury, something like that. And when so much of maybe like your career, if your career is like competing and like the future of your career is based on how well you perform, you have to perform well, and you can't perform well unless you're mentally there.
Right.
So, and athletes go through issues the same way everybody else does. So if you're going through a crisis and you have to compete the next day, how are you going to mentally cope with that so you can still perform, but still work through that crisis in a healthy way? And just, I think with athletics too, I think there's so many mental blocks that can happen. Like if you are, say, like a weightlifter and you miss a lift, that immediately puts you probably in a mental block, and you probably feel like you can't get it because you already missed it. So what are you going to do to mentally change that perspective and get yourself ready to actually like do it successfully? So I think also working with mental blocks is huge too. I know myself, I am notorious for mental blocks. I think I limit myself a lot based on mentally what I'm thinking about, overthinking. So I think all of those things are huge aspects for athletes. And I mean, it's honestly necessary. It's not even, I personally don't think if you are competing at a high level that it's a question of anymore. Like you have to have a counselor. You have to be mentally healthy.
Okay. Are you a fan of the show All American?
I am.
Have you seen the third season, the newest season?
I've only watched 2 episodes, so no spoilers.
Man, so this is by far my favorite season.
Really? Okay.
Yes, simply because Spencer. Oh well, do you mind a spoiler?
Okay, you can spoil it as long as it's not a huge spoiler.
Oh, Spencer goes to therapy,
Okay.
and that's like a huge part of the season. So yeah, I was super hype about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And I love that it's being like portrayed more because it's so good. I mean,
And his counselor was a Black dude.
yeah, and that's huge because that's not a thing you see ever. So it's nice to see that, and especially for a show like that, I know it has a huge Black audience. Most Black people I know watch that show. So
Right.
like being able to see that and seeing like, doesn't make you any less tough or any less like of a professional or whatever to go to counseling. I'm sure all the big athletes who are competing in the Olympics, NBA, NFL, I'm sure a ton of them have sports counselors and sports therapists and things like that because you need it. So I'm glad that they're showing that on the show. I look forward to seeing that.
Cool. So, move the table. So just looking at all that you discussed about your family, the things that you want to do, yeah, like where you come from and where you want to be. Looking in the mirror, uh, what do you say the ideal version of you looks like? Not just physically, but just the holistic version of you, mentally, spiritually, every part. What does that look like? The ideal you.
Um, I always think the ideal me is it's about balance, um, and acceptance. I'm never going to strive to be perfect because it's not possible. Um, and some days I'm going to feel better than others. So part of it is just accepting that not every day is going to be great. And even if I'm
Right.
really content and happy, I'm going to have bad days. I'm going to have days where I don't do well at work or at the gym or whatever. And that's okay. So just accepting that, but then also having balance. I'm really big on like not overworking myself in certain aspects of my life. I
Yeah, you
don't
go
want to
to
be
sleep at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
that I go to sleep at 10:30, which is acceptable because I really like routine. So I go to bed at 10:30. So I can have 8 hours of sleep. So I wake up at 6:30, go to the gym at 7, and then I'm ready for work at 9. And like that is just like an ideal schedule. So don't bash my schedule, okay? Because I am very well rested. So I think, and that's why like another thing, like balance is huge for me. Like I need to get my 8 hours of sleep. I want to be eating well, but still enjoy good foods. Like I have a big sweet tooth, so try and do well so I can eat like a brownie like every now and again or something. Um, I really want to, I never want to be overworking, and it's hard to do that, especially as a grad student, but I don't want to be the person who can't take a break and is always just working, working, working. Because at the end of the day, the times where I have overworked myself, it's like a blur. Like I don't even remember what I was doing in my free time. It's not like I have any fond memories of that time. And I'm like, I don't want to look back at my life and like miss 20 years because I was just working 80 hours a week or something. So some people enjoy that and they get a lot of fulfillment from work. And that's great. I love those people, like my parents or some of those people, but I like to relax. So it can't be me. So yeah, just finding a balance with work, things I want to do, things I need to do, um, and getting enough rest and cultivating relationships with people. Um, I really want like meaningful, deep relationships in my life. Um, and just, I'm not big on having super concrete set goals, I guess. Like I'm not like by the age of 25, I want to do this. By the age of 30, I want to do this. I'm kind of just going with the flow and whatever happens, happens. I feel like for me, when I set those expectations on myself is when you can set yourself up for disappointment, especially if it's something like, I want to be married by this time. It's like,
Right.
you never know what's going to happen. So, um, but just balance and acceptance. That's what I strive for. And I've been doing pretty well. It gets iffy when school starts. Like some of my sleep goes out the window, some of my social life definitely goes out the window when you can't stay up late. So, um, but yeah, just balance.
Balance is beautiful. That's why I started my bonsai trees.
You have bonsai trees?
Yeah, I have two.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice.
Heck yeah, Mr. Miyagi, man.
I'm starting to like have plants. I used to kill plants a lot, so I'm trying to work on keeping plants alive. So I have that's one of my office plants. Over there,
I
I have another
seriously didn't
plant.
think that was real.
It is real, and I water it regularly. And then I have a cactus, and then some other plant with some holes in it. I don't know. Here, let's see. There's my other plant.
What?
Yes, and they're alive and well. So, and I have a
Okay.
little Zen garden. So I'm like,
For real?
yeah,
I want
I
a,
got it
I want one
from.
of those in my backyard.
Oh, this one is very little. Like this is an office Zen garden.
Like the Amazon joint.
Yeah, like this bit.
Okay, okay.
But I got it from Five Below for $5. So if you want one,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah. Peace and balance is something that is it takes a while to find. But
Yeah.
once you get in the groove, right? Because you sound like a person, you understand and you know what you want and what you need.
Yeah.
And even if you don't necessarily know what you need or want in the moment, it's still you go with what's beneficial.
Yeah. I think it's something to be said about being content with the unknown and being okay with it and accepting it, um, and just trying not to control everything, because
Yeah.
I can be a little bit of, I tend to be on like either end of the spectrum of like complete control freak or complete like just numb, not doing anything. So I try and like get right in the middle and not be, because I used to be such a big control freak and it caused me anxiety and everyone around me. So it's just, just it's okay. I don't know what's gonna happen and I'm just rolling with that.
That's beautiful.
Wow, thank you. Means a
Well,
lot coming
Kristen,
from
I appreciate your oh,
you.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join the show. And yeah, I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Well, folks, that is Ideal Me. I am Lamar Whitby. Oh, I forgot. Where do we find you? How do we keep up with you? Because graduation, that license is right around the corner. So
How do you keep up with me? I really need to work on that. I need to get like a little website or something because right now I have next to nothing to keep up with me. Uh, dang. Yeah, I mean, I have a LinkedIn. Just
okay,
like Kristen Russell on LinkedIn, but I am really bad about updating people. I'm gonna get better about it. You just reminded me now. I'm gonna get better about that.
cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Well, LinkedIn, check her out. Um, we'll be in touch, and yeah, that's a wrap.